So we were inspired by Matt, some 9-to-5 desk job guy who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I mean, did you see him? Like, look at that. He climbed a mountain. So we decided that we wanted to do 30-day challenges of our own. We were trying to come up with a way to feed our mind, body, and soul. And this was just so incredible that we decided to do challenges. We wanted to see what we could accomplish in 30 days. So Ruth, Sammy, and Anna did a 30-day positive thinking challenge where they had to replace their bad thoughts with positive ones. And then Rachel and I did a 30-day ab challenge. Both challenges were very different, and they both had different outcomes. Now, the positive thinkers are so amazingly happy, and they're passing out flowers to strangers, and Rachel and I, you could wash clothes off our abs. Okay, so the changes weren't that drastic, but there were definitely some changes. I know I, for one, was so proud that I had accomplished a 30-day ab challenge. I mean, I sit on my couch when I'm not at work or at school, and I get free pizza at one of my jobs. So I really needed to do this challenge. And it was really difficult, and it required a lot of work. But in the end, I felt so accomplished, so proud. I want to feel that again and again. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be starting another challenge on April 1st. I'm going to learn a language. Okay, so I'm not going to be fluent in the language, but I'm going to practice a little bit every day so that I can get into the habit of practicing. So, how exactly does one complete a 30-day challenge? Matt didn't really tell us. He just kind of did them. After our struggles, we decided to give you some tips. And it is possible. I mean, I did an ab challenge, and I set fire when I walk into a gym. So here's some of the tips on how to complete your own challenge. Oh, wait. By the way, that was day 1 of the 30-day ab challenge. There we go.
Okay, so the first step in your 30-day challenge is to find your motivation and then define it. So a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That is an ancient Chinese proverb that basically tells us that every impossible venture shares a common trait, that beginning step. For a lot of us, that beginning step is one and the same: getting off the couch. So what's it going to take to get you to swing your legs off that couch? Because the first step can be hard, really hard, but once you get your feet on the floor and stand up, it gets a lot easier. My motivation for the 30-day ab challenge, 2 words: spring break. Bikini on a beach. I am feeling very motivated to work on my abs all of a sudden. But, you know, we all know that just wanting to do something isn't enough. I've wanted to work on my abs before, but been seduced by the warm embrace of my very comfortable couch. So, when Emily showed me this calendar, I suddenly had a clear and measurable goal to follow. And measurability and achievability are 2 essential components to making a successful motivational strategy. So first, you need to pick something that's out of your comfort zone, hence the word challenge, but also not impossible. Then you need to come up with a way to make sure that you're achieving that part of your challenge every day. So for the ab challenge, we had a chart. We just followed it, pretty straightforward. But for something more ambiguous, like positive thinking that these girls worked on, they had to come up with their own scale for measuring their accomplishments. For instance, Ruth chose to quantify the amount of time she would spend thinking positively each day, 10 minutes before she went to bed. Putting a number on it helped Ruth to stay focused, to stay motivated, and to make sure that she was keeping up with her challenge. So, by finding your motivation and then defining it into small, achievable goals, that will take you in a positive step in the right direction. Personally, I thought it was an accomplishment if I just remembered to do my challenge for the day. So, I mean, if only I could think of some ways to help me remember.
I guess that's where I come in. So it can be easy to say that you're going to do a 30-day challenge, and it can seem easy to have that motivation throughout the 30 days that you had at the beginning. But like Rachel said, it is a challenge, and it's called a challenge for a reason. So it might not always be as easy. It's very difficult to do a 30-day challenge initially because it's really hard to get up the motivation to do it. So, for example, I did a 30-day positive thinking challenge, and I realized that I had to think outside of the box. So, it might seem pretty easy for me to do a positive thinking challenge because I'm all smiles. But if you took a peek inside my head, you would realize that I'm a fairly anxious person. Like, for example, some people might think, I'm going to ace this test. But for me, it's more like, okay, I studied for this test. But what if I study the wrong chapter? What if I don't know anything for the test, and the professor looks at my test and he laughs at me, and then I fail out of college, and then I have to live in my mom's basement? So it's not exactly easy for me. So I had to think of some ways to sort of transform my negative and anxious thoughts into positive thoughts. So I had to think outside of the box. That's where this comes in, this ugly little gem. And for those of you who don't have 20/20 vision, it's right up here. It's pretty ugly. It's a pretty ugly ring, and I got a lot of weird looks from it. And it looks like one of those chunky plastic rings that you would use while playing Pretty Pretty Princess, which I'm sure 90s kids know a lot about. So I wore this ring initially thinking, okay, it's a nice pink heart. That'll remind me to have positive thoughts. What actually happened throughout the 30 days was that I'd look at it and think, God, why am I wearing this ugly thing? It's so ugly. And then I remember, oh, right, positive thoughts. So it worked very well. Worked the same way. So I was reminded constantly to have positive thoughts. Whenever I was starting to have a negative thought, I'd be able to transform it by looking at this ugly thing. So it's important to think outside of the box and important to remind yourself because you're making a change that might not be as natural as you think. But even when your creativity starts to fail you a little bit, just remember
that it'll all be over soon. I know for me, thinking about 30 days, a month, that was impossible. There's no way I was going to be able to do something in 30 days. So instead of looking at it as a month, I took it and broke it down. I took it by hour at first, and when the hours got easier, I took it day by day. And when the days got easier, I took it week by week. And pretty soon, a month had come and gone that quickly. When you want to give up, just tell yourself that you're doing so awesome right now, and if you give up, then the month was a waste. So just remind yourself that at the end, that there is an end and there is light at the end of that tunnel.
But just because it will be over soon does not mean that you can do something all at once. Believe me, that month can feel incredibly stressful sometimes. I tend to be the sort of person that thinks about everything at once. I want to keep what I need to do next week in my head as well as what I need to do next month, and I want to be thinking about all of the possible outcomes that could come from a certain decision. But I found to complete this challenge, I needed to stay focused on the task at hand. I needed to keep my thoughts positive in that moment. I couldn't possibly comprehend what the challenge would require at the end of the month if I hadn't thought about what it would require of me that day. Even though I knew that at the end of the month it would be 10 times harder because I would also be juggling midterms as well as trying not to be consumed by the monster that has become my organic chemistry class, I had to keep things in perspective. And so I found that if I set aside even just 10 minutes a day, it helped me to stay focused. I'm sure the other people in our group could also vouch for the fact that in order to make this challenge a success, we had to make it a priority. And that meant setting aside to actually do it. So it wasn't like midnight every night and I'm thinking about how negative I was that day and how all I can think about is the amount of work that's still sitting on my desk that I didn't actually accomplish. And I'm sure they had a couple of nights where, it was the middle of the night and they're trying to do about 300 sit-ups, But I found that blocking off time like this really helped me to stay organized. And if you do it for a whole month, I guarantee it will make you better at time management. It's just like an extra added bonus of doing a 30-day challenge. So what are you waiting for?
So now what? I'm back, sorry. Is there anything that you've wanted to do? Is there anything you want to try? Do you want to set a fitness goal, learn a language, be happier, get better at public speaking? The 30 days, like Matt said, are going to pass regardless, and why not do something to feed your mind, body, and soul? Think about the last 20 years. That's 243 30-day challenges you could have done. So what about the next 20 years? 243 opportunities, 243 more challenges, 243 new experiences, 243 opportunities for growth and exploration and discovery. It all starts with a single step. So step up, take the challenge, accept the challenge.